Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Level Up, 10 Things That Great Recruiters Do. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. And now I'd like to introduce Stacy Zapar. Stacy?
Hi guys, nice to be here. Thanks for having me. One thing from a housekeeping perspective that I'd like to throw out early on is everybody will also get a link at the end of this session where there'll be a folder where you can download the presentation and a few other things that I'm going to give you guys, little goodies along the way. So if you miss a slide or want to, you miss something or you need a copy of the presentation, Jobvite will email you or recruiter.com will email you a link to the replay, but also at the end of this you'll get a link and you can actually download the presentation and a few other things. So just want to throw that out there. But anyway, glad to be here, excited to have all you guys registered and hopefully listening in now, or you're registered and you're listening in later. I'm excited to chat with you guys. I signed up to do this talk at the Jobvite conference this past summer, and it was a lot of fun. And since then, I have kind of been staying in touch with the folks here at Jobvite, and they asked me to deliver this same talk over a webinar to all of you. So if you missed the Jobvite Recruiter Nation Live conference, here's one of the talks from that conference. If you get a chance, you should definitely attend next year. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot, met some good folks, all that good stuff. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about what a lot of recruiters are doing a really good job. But there are definitely some recruiters that are overachieving. They're kind of truly great recruiters. And every day I wake up and as I'm going through my day, I try to think about ways that I can kind of take myself from doing a good job to being truly great and really pushing ourselves to always be that much better. So some of the tips I'm going to talk about to you guys today are going to be things that you already know or you've heard a million times or you've been meaning to do but haven't quite gotten around to. Hopefully there's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you hadn't thought about and now you have something to kind of go back to your desk and really implement, try something new to help really push you up to that level up. So that's sort of my goal today. Not everything will be new, but hopefully you'll get a few new little nuggets to take home with you. Little backstory about me. I have been a recruiter for 20 years. We're going to do this part quick, don't worry. Started in the agency, went in-house for many, many years. I loved recruiting from the very first day I did it. And some of you out there can totally relate. I love that. All this other good stuff, no big deal, whatever. I've mostly worked for tech companies along the way. A few years ago, I launched my own consulting and training company, and I've trained companies all over the world now, including Zappos, TripAdvisor, Netflix, Amazon, Best Buy, a whole bunch of great companies. I love training, and I'm on a bunch of advisory boards because I love to kind of work on technologies and products that help make our lives better, our lives easier, and also improve the hiring manager and candidate experience. Those are things that I'm passionate about. Anyway, Tenfold is the name of my business for the last 5 years, and 6 months ago I launched my own search firm for recruiters specifically. So we do R for R, recruiting for recruiting. We help companies hire recruiters, employment branders, sourcers, etc. So that's sort of an expansion of my business. If you want to be considered and join in all the fun, we're doing a lot of cool stuff. It's free. Join the talent agency at join.thetalentagency.io. There's my little infomercial, but got to get it in there, right? All right. Let's talk about leveling up. Anybody out there that's a gamer like me? I have been a gamer for a very long time, starting with the old Ataris and Colecos and Nintendos, all that good stuff. My very favorite game was Adventure. I still have bad dreams about that dragon and the bat that would come and steal your key. Total nerd girl moment here. Sorry, I'm confessing my deepest, darkest secrets to you guys. All the way back to Pitfall, I can still hear the little sound that the guy made as he kind of rode the rope over the alligator pond. There's this hack, remember this hack from Mario Brothers where the goose kind of jumps off the edge, and if you get it just right, you can bang the goose up into the wall a million times and get 800 free lives. There were all kinds of hacks even then. I was always hacking systems, even back in my early childhood, and I'm still hacking things today. Sorry, LinkedIn. Anyway, I believe that as just like in gaming, just like many other things in life, there are ways that we can kind of level up. We get past that challenge. We get past that kind of boss or that big monster at the end of the level. Once you surpass that, you're that much tougher and you're ready for the next level. So kind of that same analogy is sort of what today's talk is for recruiting. We're really going to get through all the hard stuff and then level up and then take on the next challenge and continue to be better in our jobs, because there's always room to improve. I still have a million areas where I can improve and have things to learn and try new things. So anyway, how can we level up as recruiters? My goal is to not work harder all the time. I want to work smarter and faster and more efficiently. I want to get more time back on my clock. I want to not just hire more candidates, I want to hire better candidates. I want to be proactive. I'm tired of always chasing my tail and playing catch up. I want to be ahead of the game, so when something lands in my lap, I already have a game plan on how to deal with it. Of course, the experience, you guys have heard me talk about this a million times if you've ever heard me speak. I really care about the candidate experience, and not only that, the hiring manager experience. I don't care what your numbers say about you and your results. If your candidates are happy and your hiring managers are happy, it means you're doing a good job. Like, that's really what it boils down to. The numbers sort of take care of themselves if you put those two things at the forefront. And then, of course, building that strong brand. If you have a strong recruiter brand, that's going to support your employer brand. That's going to support you in your career. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. These are all ways that we as recruiters can be better at our jobs. I believe that through every step of the recruiting funnel, all these different places, there are ways that we can level up. So anywhere in that recruiting pipeline, there are ways to improve. I think the title of this talk, I called it 10 things. There's way more than 10 in here, you guys, but I broke them down in these 5 sections, so it just kind of grew. If anyone knows me and has heard me speak before, I tend to have more slides than I probably should, and I try to jam in quite a lot of info. So fasten your seatbelts. Get out your notes, whether you're doing that with pen and paper or electronically, because we're going to kind of rattle through some fun stuff now. All right, time to level up. So before the rec opens, this is stuff that we're doing constantly in the background or in the forefront of a recruiting process. These are things that we need to do to be proactive before the rec lands in our lap. What can we be doing to level up our game even before we start actively recruiting on a specific job? Obviously, we need to be subject matter experts in our field, and that can mean a number of different things. If you're a sourcer, you need to know the heck out of sourcing and Boolean and what tools are out there and what merging tools and playing around with extensions. If you're a recruiter, be reading books about closing deals and negotiating and know your craft, right? That also applies to the business unit that you're supporting. If you're supporting legal, you should be reading legal books. I remember reading MBA for Dummies when I got my very first finance recruiting job in 1999. I'm showing my age here. It was the most boring thing I ever read in my life. But I read that darn book, and I felt a lot more confident when I went to sit down with the hiring manager, and he starts talking about all these different kind of, accounting practices and yada yada and different things that he was looking for. I felt more prepared. So whatever you need to do, whether you're reading, online, studying, downloading tools, joining Facebook groups, there's so many great Facebook groups, you guys. I'm going to share in my goodie bag at the end, I'll have a link to all my favorite Facebook groups where you can network with other people that have similar interests and professional experience and really crowdsource and crowd share and knowledge share. So many ways that we can become subject matter experts in different areas of our work. Like I just said, we're always tinkering with new tools and technology. I play around with extensions. Yes, they blow up on me sometimes. Yes, I've recently I lost all my bookmarks in Chrome after 5 years because some extension didn't really play nicely with Chrome, and I had to restore it to its default settings. But you know what? That's a sign. That's a sign. It's kind of a rite of passage, right? When in doubt, don't take risks. I thought I was going a safe route. Turns out I clicked on the wrong thing, and boom, something blew up on me. But the point is, if I hadn't been experimenting with different technologies and extensions and tools and all the different options out there, if I wasn't playing around, I'd kind of be stuck in the place I was 3, 4, or 5 years ago. And technology is absolutely a great way for us to kind of advance our skills and be more efficient. And yes, everything that my extensions do, I can also do manually, but guess what? It takes a lot longer. So if anything helps me shave a few minutes off my day, I'm down for that. So definitely, there are a lot. Dean DaCosta has done a series for SourceCon. I think it's on part 6 now. He's The Wonderful World of Extensions or something. Take a look at some of those. see which ones really speak to you and your business needs, and download a few and play with them. You'll be amazed at what you'll be using, and you'll realize, like, wow, I don't even know how I did my job before I had this tool. It helps me in so many ways. And again, I'll have some of my favorite extensions that are as part of that goodie bag, and you can play around with the ones that I personally love in my daily sourcing and recruiting. So great recruiters are data-driven, and we make informed decisions. It's not just about numbers. There's definitely a gut feel to it too. But if you're only using your gut instinct and you're not taking a look at the numbers once in a while, you may not realize that you have a ton of submittals but very few interviews, and that your numbers are skewed there. And maybe it's time to be a little bit more picky in your submittals. Or maybe you have, a lot of people make it to interview, but nobody's making it through the offer. Maybe there's something, a miscommunication between you and the hiring manager as to what they're really looking for. If you look at those different numbers in the recruiting funnel, you're going to see areas where there's, wow, this one number is really skewed off in a weird place. Let me think about why that could be. And if you dig into that one area, I promise it's going to make you a better recruiter, and you're going to be working smarter, not harder. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I want to put in, the right amount of effort for great results. I don't want to bust my hump and just get mediocre results. Great recruiters, I think, build relevant social networks. Surprise for surprise, Stacy's talking about growing your network. This comes as no surprise. I believe being well networked and building relationships and having a presence on the social networks where your audience hangs out, and your audience in your case is whatever it is that you recruit for. So if you're hiring truck drivers, LinkedIn is probably not the place for you. I don't know where truck drivers do hang out, actually, so don't judge me there. But the point is, I recruit recruiters now, so I am definitely hanging out in LinkedIn more than I did before, because that's where recruiters hang out. But different populations are on different channels, so really think about and be mindful and grow your network and have a presence, right? Don't just be hidden and incognito out there on the web. Share content that builds your brand, and that, I think that kind of falls into 3 or 4 buckets. I share content on Twitter and LinkedIn, things that are interesting to not only me, but also to my audience. So when I was a tech recruiter, for instance, I would definitely share tech articles. I was kind of into gadgets and smart tech, and I would share, things that were, certainly I wouldn't talk about, oh, the new Angular JS, blah, blah, what really, I didn't pretend to know stuff that I didn't know, but I talked about interesting tech, and techies would kind of, follow along and what have you. Talking about my gamer past or my current gamer status. I'm still a gamer, you guys. My current addiction is Golf Clash. You have to check it out. I don't even like golf, but I love this dumb game. Anyway, I digress. But talking about gamers, letting my nerd side show a little bit, talk about Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and, I don't know, my band geek days, like kind of just owning a little bit of my nerdy side, which is definitely a part of me. You know what? A lot of techies kind of related to me, and they would sort of follow me and talk to me a little, and it absolutely greased the wheels. I didn't just talk about work, work, work all day, opening, here's a job opening, job opening. That gets boring and repetitive, right? Infuse a little personality and a little bit of you into the content you're sharing. So share stuff you're passionate about, share stuff that you know about, share stuff that's interesting to your audience, but yeah, kind of a little bit of you too. So, which I think leads us to the next slide. We know how to rock our social media mullet. We don't just talk shop all the time. If you're using your channel at all for work, infuse a little bit of you, right? A business in the front, party in the back. That's your social media mullet. You might be 90% work, 10% business, I'm sorry, personal, or vice versa. You decide the blend that makes sense for you. But I absolutely believe that if you only talk shop, you're not interesting to an audience. So put a little bit of you out there. I've already revealed secrets about myself in this call that a lot of people don't know about me. But guess what? It makes you a real person. So I don't know, be you, and you'll automatically stand out from all the other recruiters that infuse no personality whatsoever. Trust me on this. I really strongly believe it. Great recruiters are always proactively pipelining. If I'm a tech recruiter and a UX recruiter candidate reaches out and I don't have any UX openings right now, guess what? I'm still going to respond to that UX person. I'm still going to save them in a safe place for a rainy day, because I know if and when I have a UX opening, those folks are really hard to find, and now I already have somebody that I've had a communication with. Even if it's just a little cursory 2-minute call, a little email exchange, whatever it is, connect with them on LinkedIn, agree to stay in touch, send yourself a reminder in 6 months to touch base. All of a sudden, if and when that person's on the market or you have an opening, you're going to be the one that comes to mind. If they have a buddy who's looking, they're going to send them to you. You now are the one recruiter that they're thinking about. So proactively pipeline, and that involves, you know, people that you cross paths with, things that you may not be working on today. Maybe you have a silver medalist candidate who's not going to get an offer. They were your plan B if your plan A didn't work out, but they were still really strong. Definitely tag them in your CRM, make a little note somewhere, whatever you need to do. Always be kind of stockpiling your acorns for the winter. Don't just always be playing catch up. I am a big believer of being ahead of the curve. Dig a well before you're thirsty, that sort of mindset, right? All right, so that's all the stuff that I think we can be doing before the rec actually opens. Once the rec opens and you get that call, you know, Joe Blow has an opening on their team and it's time to get going, what do you do now? What can we do to really level up our game from good to great? The best recruiters are super tight with their hiring managers, and not just from a friendly perspective, oh, let's go grab a beer. I mean, that's all well and good. But they absolutely are a trusted business partner. That hiring manager knows that this person knows the business. They know the actual business unit at that company and what the challenges are and where they're going. I think we can really, like I said, I really think we can push ourselves, not just, hi there, I'm going to be your recruiter. How many years of experience do you need? What's so required versus desired? Okay, I'm off and running. Like, that's okay, and that's a good job. But a great job is, tell me about this job and like what's the career path in 6 months and where's the business trying to go and what are the business challenges that you're trying to solve. And I can be keeping my eyes and ears out for other openings that might be coming up down the line. You know what? You say that you need more testers, because we have this backlog in testing and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I'll have the conversation with the hiring manager and say, you know what, maybe we need to up our game from a developer perspective, because if we have a big backlog in testing, maybe our code is buggy and maybe we need more developers or better developers, and really talk through it. And you'll be amazed how your hiring manager is like, wow, you're kind of looking at this from a big picture perspective. The other recruiters have never done that. So really do what you can to be a market expert. Tell them, you know what, this is what I think the job's going to pay in the market. These are the companies where I think we could source. This is where I think we can find these people. Whatever it is, really establish your expertise and push back a little bit, kind of get that conversation going, and really let that hiring manager view you as a trusted business partner, not just a glorified order taker that's now here to serve them from a recruiting perspective. Really show them that this is a partnership. I believe in having killer intake meetings. Y'all have heard me talk about the red pen. If you've ever heard me speak, I kind of am like a little bit of a broken record about this, but I believe that the intake meeting is not just a place for you to find out what the hiring manager wants and then go find it. That, again, is just the basics. I like to come to that intake meeting, and I block about 45 minutes usually, sometimes an hour, depending if I've never worked with that team or that hiring manager before. I block a little more time than necessary. Not just 30 minutes is usually not going to cut it if you're going to have a killer intake meeting. I researched the market, I researched the role, I print out a few other job descriptions that I think might be better than the one that they sent to me. Maybe we can marry these together, create a better advertisement. Basically, that's what a job posting is, an ad. If the one you have is not good, it's your job to make sure that you're using a good ad that will attract better people, right? I bring along a few sample resumes to that intake meeting. At the very end of the intake, I whip out 2 or 3 resumes, and I'm like, hey, based on kind of what I understood the role to be, I found a few resumes. I thought I'd bring them along. Do you mind taking a peek at these while I sit here and just kind of read them out loud a little bit and give me your thoughts? And sure enough, they'll read through it. They'll say, oh, wow, they did this. Oh, gosh, that's really great. That technology is perfect for what we're doing. Oh, great. That's not even on my job description. So I jot that down. Oh, look, this person only worked 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years there. Oh, 2 years is their cutoff for job hopping. A lot of companies, it's, a lot of hiring managers, it's only a year and a half. Some people think anything less than 3 years. Really let them read the resume. Oh, wow, they went to such and such school. Okay, they're into school. Some hiring managers are really school snobs or pedigree. Some managers could care less. So really let them read through it out loud, and you will gain so many insights beyond what's on the job description. And it only adds another 5 minutes to the meeting. I definitely break out the red pen. I read the job description line by line to the hiring manager. Yes, I know this sounds tedious. I know this sounds infantile in some ways, but this is what I do. I absolutely read it. This person will be responsible for da 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 da. and they start talking about Novell and Netscape and these old technologies, and they're like, whoa, 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 where does it say that? I'm like, right here in the second line of the job description. Oh, geez, that's super old. We don't even have that technology anymore. Oh, great. Good thing we read it out loud. Let's fix that right up. And so we'll take that out and we'll rewrite it together. You'll be amazed at how much red ink, and you don't have to use an actual red pen, that's sort of an expression, but you'll be amazed at how much your job description will change if you read it out loud to the hiring manager, and they will help you understand that some of that's out of date, some of that's worded wrong. A lot of times these job descriptions are these old, crusty, dusty things that lived in some HR drive for the last 8 years, and they haven't been updated in a long time. And in tech especially, that's going to kill you, because techies don't want to work on old technologies ever. I ask hard questions. I'm not afraid to push back. I'm like, great, there's no such animal that does this and this. I know you only have one head count and you really need to hire 2 people, but there's no such thing as this. I was like, or if you want to find this, you know, it's going to cost you this much money. Or if they tell me they have a $65K budget for a front-end developer, I'm going to push back. I'm not going to go out there and beat my head against a wall trying to find something that's impossible. And also what I do is I ask them questions not just about ways to screen out, right? Must have this, needs to have that, you know, how many years of this. That's screening out, right? I also ask them questions that will help me sell the role to the candidate, because a lot of times I'm proactively sourcing people who are not looking for a job. They're not applying. I'm tapping them on the shoulder or cold calling them in some way. And once I get them on the phone, I need to talk about the things that are sexy about this job or this role or this company or this team, and really get them interested so that they will want to continue in the process. If you only know ways to screen out, you're not giving yourself all the advantages necessary. So here's my list. If you want to screenshot it, go for it. Here's my list of ways to go beyond intake meetings. I think John Vlastalik and his team call them strategy sessions, and that kind of sounds, you know, a little bit more relevant and interesting to the hiring manager. You know, we're going to strategize about what we're going to do for this search. But wants versus needs, certainly. I ask them about, what is your pie in the sky candidate, the absolute ideal? Where do they work? Where do they come from? What's their background? Like, tell me your dream candidate, and I write it all down. Is there anyone on the team, if you could clone them, you would? Okay, great. I'll look at that person's background and I'll try to gain some insights from that, or where they used to work, or what skills or certifications they have. Maybe they know good companies to source from. I ask them again, like I said, in order to help sell the job, why would somebody who's in the top 10 or 20% of their field want to quit their job and come work on this project? Talk a little bit about career path, helping me sell the role. What's the impact of the role on the greater business? Are there any deal breakers for you? Or do you have anything that you're like, absolutely, I won't hire anyone out of agency. They have to be corporate. I only want, you know, digital marketers in a corporate, not digital agency people or whatever. Now's a good time to ask about diversity goals. How diverse is your team? Have you thought about this in a while? Great. Wow, we have all white dudes. Maybe we should fix that. So things like that. These are things that you can't be shy, and they're actually going to respect you for asking it. I know I sound like a bull in a china shop. I also ask them about management style, and I don't ever ask them, tell me about your management style, because they will just rave and rave and rave, right? I ask them, hey, if I talk to the members of your team, how would they describe your management style to me? It's a very subtle nuance, but all of a sudden, it's like Wonder Woman's magic lasso. They start telling the truth. Well, you know, I'm really good at this and that. I probably need to work on this and the other a little bit. And, well, sometimes I'm not. I know I can. All of a sudden, you'll find out, but you'll kind of gain insights that might help you eventually in your communication with candidates and what they're ideally looking for as far as a leader. Great recruiters do not post generic job titles. I know that this is a little bit of an eye chart, but I will tell you now, here's what these jobs are called. Software engineer. These are all different jobs posted on Indeed or something. Software engineer, embedded software engineer, senior software engineer, engineer 1 software engineer, junior software engineer, software engineer 4, right? So these are all so generic. No one who's a techie that's highly in demand is going to sit there and click on all these and see what kind of software they are. Put a modicum of effort in there and call it what the job is. Call it senior front-end developer, JavaScript, HTML5, CSS. Put it in the title. Make it really clear that that's the kind of job that this is. Do not hide it and then make people dig around. Also on your website, make it clear. Call it what the job is. Yes, their title on their business card and their email signature once they're hired might say Software Engineer 4, but this is a job posting. This is an advertisement. You need to be targeted. There we go. We understand that postings are advertisements. If you can embed video, a photo of the team, it's not that hard. If you can link out to a blog post or a Q&A or a video with one of the employees talking about the work that they're doing, let them geek out on the tech or geek out on whatever project they're working on. Make it content rich. Don't just make it this long, boring block of text, other duties as assigned, must have 4-year degree or equivalent experience. Like, that's not sexy. That's not informative. That's not helping close the deal here. I'm a big fan of just putting a status update out on LinkedIn, and instead of just saying senior recruiter merchandising in San Diego with a block of text, who do you know, with a link to your posting, I put a picture of the San Diego skyline. Nobody outside of San Diego probably knows what that skyline is, but as a San Diegan, I immediately recognize that. So anyone scrolling through their feed is going to skip all the words. But if they see that San Diego picture, they might stop and be like, oh, that's San Diego. Oh, what is this about? And they'll read it, I promise. I see tons and tons of postings on LinkedIn that just have a title, urgent need, a job title, and then a link. And they have 1 like, maybe they have 3 likes if they're really good. This one got 190 likes, 12 comments, and 38,000 views, just for sticking a picture on there. That's all I did, and it took 2 seconds to do a Google image search. So again, this is something really simple, but drives a much, much bigger results. And these 190 likes, every time someone likes or comments your post, it automatically goes out to every single person in their network. And any of those people hit the like button, it automatically goes out to everyone in their network. This stuff can go viral really quickly. The algorithm isn't complicated like it is on Facebook. LinkedIn, if somebody likes it, it goes out to their network. Done. Here's another example, Minneapolis. Again, I wouldn't know this skyline, but if you were from Minneapolis, you would know this skyline. And this time I did, hey, Minneapolis folks, who's the best tech recruiter you know? Da, 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 da. I turned it into a conversation. I asked a question because a question begs an answer. And just by making that simple tweak, this one got 172 likes, but it got 27 comments. You'll notice the comments went way up because I asked a question, and then they started saying, oh, the best recruiter I know in Minneapolis is so-and-so. And they were bragging on their friends and what have you. And all of a sudden, I had a whole list of people to start networking with, sourcing potentially, and starting a conversation. And it got 54,000 views. So this one, just by asking a question and turning it into a conversation, got that much more exposure. I'm a big fan of leveraging my hiring team and really partnering with them. Once I get the intake meeting over, I go to the team staff meeting next, and I meet the whole staff, the people on that team, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm Stacy. I'm going to be your recruiter today. For this position. Would love to, network with you guys. I would love to send each of you a LinkedIn invite, and I would love to go through your network and see if there's anybody that's your first level connection that I think would be perfect for this job. You can just give me a quick thumbs up or thumbs down. All of a sudden, I'm driving referrals. All of a sudden, the hiring team has an even more vested interest in partnering together because they're working extra hours to cover for this person that's not on their team yet. So anyway, I make sure I'm not a stranger to the hiring team, and we start those conversations. I ask them, who's the best salesperson in New York City that you know? And I don't just ask everyone. I ask all the salespeople in New York City that work for my company. I'll ping them and ask that, because who do salespeople in New York City know? Other salespeople in New York City. Get really specific and network, even if you don't know the person. They work at your company. If they're a QA engineer in Woodland Hills, California, I'm going to ping all the QA engineers in Woodland Hills, California that work for my company. I did this when I was at Intuit. I'm like, hey, I'm helping do a search for so-and-so's team for QA engineers. I don't really know Woodland Hills. What are some good companies to search out? Do you mind? I would just send a quick little 3-sentence email, and you'd be amazed that people come back, oh, these are the 5 companies that would be perfect. Most of our team came from here. Oh, great. Thank you. And all of a sudden I have a path. Just be really smart and drive referrals and drive networking and leverage your internal employees as best you can. P.S. While I'm there, I encourage the people in the hiring team to write a quick Glassdoor review, because Glassdoor sorts chronologically. The most recent shows up on top. So when people see my ad or I source them and they go to Cyberstalk us on Glassdoor, all the top stuff is relevant to the team that's currently hiring. How perfect is that? And then slowly, organically, you start to grow your Glassdoor reviews rec by rec by rec as you go through the process. Like I just said, I know how to leverage my hiring team. I not only ask for that thumbs up, thumbs down, of people that they're connected to. I might even write a little outreach message, send it to them and say, hey, can you reach out to those 2 people you gave me a thumbs up on? Here's an email, just copy and paste it and shoot it to your buddy. You already have their email address because they're your first level connection on LinkedIn. You can just click on that. Boom. All of a sudden, my response rate is around 90, 95% because they're reaching out to their coworker that they worked with 2 jobs ago and have a favorable opinion of. Of course, their person's going to respond back and say, yeah, I'll talk to you guys, or, it's not a good time. At least you'll get a response. And you'll get a response on a warm, vetted lead that is recommended by somebody on the team. A 90% response rate on a warm, vetted, recommended lead, that's really good, smart effort with high ROI. That's the stuff I'm talking about. That's what great recruiters do. I host sourcing parties. I give my hiring team beer, pizza. I'll do it at 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon, and we'll do a little sourcing party. I'll project my screen. They'll all bring their laptops. We'll run some Boolean strings together. I'll show the search results on my screen. Their search results are going to be different because the same Boolean string run against their network is going to yield different results than mine. And all of a sudden, we have a really great pipeline and sourcing parties. If you call it a party, they will come. That's a quote from Nellie Peshkov at Netflix, and she's absolutely right. Great recruiters are skilled sourcers, and we speak fluent Boolean. If you don't feel that you speak Boolean fluently, and it is not that hard, you should make this priority number 1 after today's call. You can be an expert in Boolean in about 30 minutes or less. And it will absolutely help you narrow down your search results from 1,000 results where everyone kind of looks sort of the same to getting 25 results where the people are a perfect fit based on that amazing intake meeting that you had. That's what great recruiters do. I run a search until I get about 25 to 50 results. I narrow down from there until I have about 10 or 15. I reach out to those 10 or 15, and guess what? I don't have to run that search again. I typically will get a hire out of that initial 10 to 15 that I am reaching out to cold because they're such a perfect fit, and I understand the role, and I know what companies I'm sourcing out of, and I've looked for all the right things, and I can typically get a hire out of one batch of 10 to 15 cold emails because it's so narrow. So if you're just blasting or kind of wading through 1,000 people and hoping something sticks, you're going to have to keep doing that again and again until something works. Just work really tight the first time, and you won't have to be kind of feeling your way around in the dark, basically. Please go beyond the norm. Everybody goes straight to LinkedIn, and that's it. Check your ATS. There are people in there that want to work for your company because they've applied or interviewed at some point in the past. Check Twitter. I've gotten hires off Twitter. I sent one tweet. It took me 6 seconds to type it. I'm pretty sure. I'm just guessing. And I got 2 interviews out of it and a hire. So really simple stuff. There's all kinds of places. Search Facebook. If you're in healthcare or hourly workers or recent grads, Facebook's a great place to source. You don't have to reach out over Facebook. Find them on Facebook or Meetup. Reach out over email. There's all kinds of things we can do, and that's another training session for another day to go into that. Great recruiters know which tool to use and when to use it. We don't use a fork to eat soup. We also don't use, LinkedIn to find those truck drivers I talked about. So really know where to look for what thing. Know your audience. Know where they hang out. Know how to reach out. Be really smart about it. Again, delivering that great candidate experience is really paramount. Know how and where to reach your candidates. LinkedIn has a 19-minute a month active user rate, meaning the average user spends 19 minutes a month on LinkedIn. And that's including all of us recruiters mixed in with that. My husband's a UX guy. He checks LinkedIn every 3 to 4 months, if that. And when he does check it, he's got 200 messages from recruiters in there because UX people are in high demand. How often does he check his email? 25 times a day. If I'm sourcing, I am sending out email. I'm not sending in-mails personally. That's my 2 cents. We're targeted. We don't spam blast. I'm not a big believer. If it looks like a spam blast, it probably is a spam blast. People are very aware now when they're being spammed too. If you have this long email, they know that's a template. They know that there's nothing personalized in there, that they're one of 100 that might have gotten it. They have no interest or kind of, they feel no big need to respond back to you. It's really easy to ignore a spam blast. But if you keep it short and sweet, if you keep it conversational, inject a little bit of personality in there, Personalize it a teeny bit, mention their blog post that you read, mention some status update that they put out on LinkedIn, mention some project they worked on in the past, mention somebody that you both know in common. That one works great. Where can you find out who do you guys know in common? Oh yeah, LinkedIn. So there's really easy ways to put something in there that shows, hey John, I'm reaching out just to you right now. And be really mindful. Don't sell too hard in the beginning. Just say, hey, we've got this cool thing we're working on. I took a peek at your background. I really think this could be a great next step for you. Do you have a few minutes to chat? Would love to, 3 to 4 minutes. I can tell you a little bit about what we're working on and see if you want to continue the conversation. Don't ask them, send me 5 times that you're available, update your resume, apply online. We're cold calling. Make it really easy peasy. Don't sell, just get them to talk to you. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I don't start with phone, but if I've already sent an email, I might call them a few days later just to follow up. That really shows them that you want to talk to them. This was not some spam blast that went out to 100 people. You're following up over phone after sending an email. You're genuinely interested in speaking with them. And you can also inject a little bit more of personality in you and build a teeny bit more rapport in a voicemail or a phone call, obviously, than you can in an email. Sometimes it's the messenger. I can send a message and get a 45% response rate. A financial analyst can email from one of my hiring teams, can email another financial analyst, and they might get an 80% response rate just because it's a finance person to a finance person, even if the message is identical. Sometimes it's just the messenger. So if you're having a hard time hearing back, maybe you say, you know what, I've reached out to these 5 people, I haven't heard back. John's, on the hiring team, or Jane, I keep using dudes, I'll use some female examples now. Hey Jane, can you, do you mind sending this email? I've already kind of typed it up, you can tweak it if you want. Do you mind reaching out to these people and just let them know that we're hiring for the team? It's her team, she's interested in filling the job too. And when they respond back, she just forwards them to me, and I'm like, hey, I understand that you responded back to Jane, would love to kind of start the process. Do you have a few minutes? I'll explain kind of next steps and just get them on the phone. It works out better than you think. I'm a big believer in the 3-step. The 3-step is I send my initial outreach, short, sweet. You have a few minutes to chat. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're working on here at XYZ Company. Short and sweet. 2 to 3 days later, I send a follow-up. Maybe I call, maybe I tweet them, maybe I text them. I don't know. I'm not quite a big texter yet for outreach, but a lot of people swear by it. I'm getting close to getting there. Just following up, we've started to move forward with the process. I'd hate for you to miss the bus. The hiring team's still really interested in speaking with you. Do you have a few minutes to chat? I just created a sense of urgency, and I also reminded them that the hiring team is the one that's interested in speaking with them, not just some cheesy recruiter that they don't know, right? A few days after that, I send a thanks anyway email. I don't bug them anymore. I send the initial, a quick follow-up, and 2 to 3 days later, I just say, hey, sounds like now's not a good time. No big deal. Let's stay in touch down the road. If you do ever want to chat, I'm around. And boom, you'd be amazed. My first email, I get about a 45% response rate. My second email, it jumps up to 65. That third email, believe it or not, I get an 85% response rate back because people feel like they missed the bus and now they want to hear what they missed. So try it. Don't just send one email and be done. You can configure your ATS or your CRM to track these follow-ups. Whatever your ATS or CRM is, build in a status in there, or use Trello. This system that I'm playing with a little bit right now. It allows you to track things sort of like Trello. Maybe you set up a Trello board. Maybe you set up a status, but put in there left message, initial follow-up, signed off, like whatever it is. So that 3-step I just talked about, build that into your workflow in your ATS or your CRM. Great recruiters are really efficient and we save time at every turn. I'm a big believer in, I say this all the time, great recruiters are not necessarily smarter than anybody else. We just somehow figure out a way to get 12 hours of work into an 8-hour day. I believe that. It's all about juggling 800 balls and getting everything done as quickly and efficiently as possible and still creating a great experience. So if you can think of a way to save a little time, delegate something to someone else, use a template or copy and paste and then, customize slightly, use tools and technologies to be more efficient. Whatever you can do, think about how you can shave time and not do repetitive tasks that are manual and administrative. I'm a big believer. I love to kind of Google and figure out company email patterns, right? You know, Gail_Smith@acme.com, whatever it is. Once I figure out the email pattern for that company, I've been stocking it away in an Excel spreadsheet since about 2005. Now I never have to look up what the email pattern is for that company. Everybody at the company has that same email pattern. LinkedIn's is, first initial last name at linkedin.com, right? Now if I know somebody's name, I just plug it into that pattern and I can email anyone at LinkedIn. It works like a charm. But I don't want to have to Google in 3 weeks what LinkedIn's email pattern is, so I would save it in the system, in my Excel spreadsheet. I have 1,500 plus email patterns in this spreadsheet. You guys are all going to get this spreadsheet at the end of the call in the goodie bag. So please use it. Email people in a very targeted way. Don't spam. It also has phone numbers and headquarters, cities. It's a good resource, and I hope you'll be able to use it. Great recruiters are multitaskers. I know we're getting a little close to the Q&A time. I'm going to talk fast here. But great recruiters are multitaskers. If you've ever waited tables, you know you don't go back to the kitchen to get the ketchup, and then you go back a separate trip to get the coffee for refills, and then you go back because you forgot the salt and pepper or whatever. You don't take 15 trips back to the kitchen. You go back, you get a tray, you stack it all on there, and you come back and you make the rounds. It is the exact same thing in recruiting. I believe some of the best recruiters used to be waiters or waitresses. If this is you, tweet me at Stacey Zapar on Twitter and tell me that you were a waitress, and you totally feel me right now, because I am a big believer in this, and we can have a little fun kind of extolling the virtues of former waiters turned recruiters. But I think it's a great prep for recruiting, because it isn't hard what we're doing. It's just a million little steps. And if you have 6 big tables get sat down at the same time, that's like getting 6 recs in the same week. So 6 new recs in the same day or the same week. It's the same concept. It's just about time management and being efficient. Okay, we're at the interview stage. What can we do to be truly great recruiters and not just good enough? Again, it's about efficiency and automation. I use a scheduling tool. When I send out my initial outreach message or anybody wants to meet with me, I have a little blurb that I put in there. Hey, great, sounds good. If you want to set up a time to speak, here's a link to my calendar. Feel free to book a time that works best for you. And I put it right out there. And boom, it pulls up my calendar. They pick a time. It goes on both of our calendars. Done. None of this, send me 5 times you're available. Okay, I'm available these 3 days. Oh, those times aren't available anymore. Okay, how about these days? You've just lost a week, and the other companies that are interviewing them are way ahead of you, and now you're playing catch up, and you're having to scramble. That's not good. I send out a bunch of outreach messages on a Thursday. Friday morning, I wake up, check my email. I've got 5 interviews that day on my calendar that I didn't have to lift a finger for. This works great. I highly recommend it. The tools that you can use, I use You Can Book Me. You Can Book Me. Google it. There's Calendly. There's Mixmax. There's Schedule Once. This will all be in the goodie bag. I have a list of all these things for you, and you can try them out. Many of them are free. Okay, we're really efficient and thorough interviewers. We're not just, to tell, what's your greatest weakness? If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Enough. Like, really dig down, and if you get an answer that you're not happy with, dig a little more. Allow for those awkward silences and let them fill it. Really up your interview game. Don't just go through the motions. If you're interviewing and not really gaining any new insights, then that's a problem, right? So I have some good hacks for interviewing. My favorite interview question, I call it the magic question, because I get all kinds of answers that are like magic wand type stuff that I would never find out otherwise. Here's my favorite question. Ready? At the end of an interview, sometimes phone interview, certainly at the end of an on-site, I ask everybody this. Gone through the whole interview, Q&A, whatever, ask me a question. Great. Is there anything that didn't come up today that you think would be helpful for me to know? Is there anything that didn't come up today that you think would be helpful for me to know? Oh my goodness, you guys, you'll be amazed. A, it gives them a chance to shine. They can say things like, oh, well, I didn't want to bring it up because it sounds braggy, but I've been the #1 recruiter in my company for the last 13 years running. Oh my gosh, thank you for telling me this. Like, I'm writing this down. You are a superstar. Sometimes they'll say, it didn't come up because everyone asked me about my current job, but 2 jobs ago, I worked on this exact same kind of project, and we finished ahead of schedule, under budget, and we got a big award. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up because no one asked you about it today. Thank you. It also is a nice little thing. They might tell you something like, well, I didn't bring it up yet, but I need a visa transfer or a sponsorship. Oh, wow, that's really good for me to know now that we've already brought you in. They might tell you, oh, I have a competing offer and I need to get back to them by the end of the week. Oh my gosh, this is also very good for me to know. They might tell you things like, I don't have childcare, I can't work on Tuesdays, I don't have transportation. I had one time had someone tell me, Stacey, I know it's a little premature, but if you guys go to check references, please don't call my previous employer. We're still engaged in an active lawsuit right now. I honestly had someone tell me that after asking a similar question to this. They told me, don't check references at XYZ company because we're still engaged in an active lawsuit. Alrighty then. And that gave me a chance to ask some more questions. And up till then, they were a green light. But based on some of the stuff they shared, not that everyone who's ever been in a lawsuit with their employer is bad, but based on the circumstances that I heard, it was absolutely a no-go. And we would have never known if I hadn't asked the magic question. So please try it. Don't be afraid to do exploratories. You don't have to commit to a 30-minute deep dive interview. Just say, hey, do you have a few minutes to chat on the phone? Chat a little bit. If it's feeling good, you can keep going and ask them if they have a little more time. If it's not going well, their communication skills aren't good, they're not local, they don't really have the right skills, as come to find out, just be like, great, thank you so much for this information. I've made some notes. I'm going to take a peek and see if there's anything on the team here that might be a match, and I'll give you, a heads up if there is. But otherwise, I have my notes here, and we'll be able to reach out if something comes up. Boom. You did not have to waste the whole 30 minutes. Just keep it light and kind of open, and don't commit yourself too much, and you'll get 20 minutes back on your calendar several times a day maybe. And you didn't waste time interviewing people that you're ultimately going to have to sign off anyway, and you knew that within 2 minutes of the call. We need to understand motivators and constantly pre-close. I'm a big believer in this. There should be no surprises along the way as to who's going to accept and who's not. I know that that's not real life scenario, that there's still going to be surprises. But you should kind of know, like, where else are you interviewing? Okay, how's our company ranking? Okay, wait, how are you feeling about everything? Like, really stay in touch and understand what it's going to take. Don't be pushing salary if really what they care about is the benefits, or don't be pushing title when really what they care about is work-life balance. Understand what each person's unique motivators are and then speak to those. Don't just push what's important to you or what you think is important to them. Prep your candidates and your hiring team for those interviews. Do not let your hiring team members sit down or come 5 minutes late, prop their feet up on the interview table, and whip out the resume for the very first time and say, hold on, let me look at your resume here, because it's clear that it's the first time they've ever seen it. Hold them accountable. Prep them. I give my candidates an email, or right when they're coming into interview, I include all this stuff. That way, they have every possible question answered. They go into that interview knowing what to expect, what happens next, what to wear, where to park, who do I call or text if somebody doesn't show up to the interview and I'm sitting there for 10 minutes by myself, I need to take a bathroom break. Whatever it is, give them every single possible chance to succeed and feel confident so they walk into that interview with their shoulders back, feeling good. Don't have them going in like, who am I going to meet with? What's going to happen now? I really don't like this. Like, I'm unsure. Why would you do that? Give them every chance to be successful. Prep them as much as you can. Great recruiters are religious documenters. Let's see, how are we doing? We've got 12 minutes left, and I do want to leave some time for Q&A, I promise. If I have a conversation with anybody ever about anything, I suck it away in my CRM. Even if it's, hey, now's not a good time, I've got 3 months left on my contract, thanks so much. I'm actually calling you from the Bahamas right now. I'm sitting on a beach, haha, whatever it is. 3 months later, I put a reminder, I call them, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? I know last time we spoke, you mentioned your contract was wrapping up. By the way, how was that Bahamas trip? They will be blown away that you remember the Bahamas part. Like, everything we talk about, I sort of just take some notes, and I ping myself later. I bring up something that we talked about last time. I remember who they were. And you will stand out as being a great recruiter who builds those relationships. Even if your memory's not that good, your CRM won't forget, I promise. I'm a big fan of texting my candidates, keeping them posted. Hey, no news yet. I'm going to let you know by the end of the week. I'm meeting with the hiring manager on Thursday. I'll send you an update by Friday at the latest. Text, text, text. It works great. People like it. It's easy. You don't have to pick up the phone and have 50 phone calls. Just send a little text out. Keep people in the loop. Have those weekly meetings with your hiring manager. Hold them accountable. It keeps you accountable to keep resumes coming in. They have to give you feedback in a timely way. Meeting weekly makes everybody kind of play nice. If you don't meet in person or on the phone, and it's been a few weeks, everybody starts pointing fingers and throwing people under the bus and ratting people out to their bosses. Oh, the recruiter hasn't given me any resumes. Oh, this hiring manager is not responsive. All of a sudden, things go to pot. But if you have to meet every week, it keeps everybody talking and it makes things go so much more smoothly, especially the hiring managers that you really don't want to meet with. Those are the ones you need to meet with the most. I send a weekly update to the senior management. So if I have an opening on my QA team, I'm going to send an email to the head of IT each week, letting them know, hey, here's what's going on. We had 3 people interview this week. We have 2 more next week. We're going to be making a decision. Just a quick little bulleted, very easy to scan. These are senior management. I don't write a book. So they can scan and see what's going on. I'll be like, well, we had 2 people interview last week. I've been pinging the hiring manager. Haven't quite gotten an update on that yet. As soon as I do, we'll know what's next. The implication is clear, right? It holds the hiring manager even more accountable, and the senior management will love you that you're keeping them in the loop of what's going on with their hiring. This has been a really great strategy for me, by the way. All right, so we've gone through the interview stage. It's time for the decision. Are they going to get the job? Are they not? Don't let your applicants fall into the black hole. Use your ATS. Anyone who applied but never got an interview, don't just close out the rec and let them fall into the black hole. Shoot them a quick little update email and say, close them out, encourage them to stay in touch. Maybe you ask them to invite you on LinkedIn. Whatever you want to do, sign it with your real name. You will create a better experience. Do not coast or like jog toward the finish line. If you have somebody who's getting close to an offer and you have nobody else in the interview pipeline, you absolutely are going to jinx yourself and your top candidate will fall out, I promise. I'm superstitious that way. I believe that if you don't have a backup candidate, your first choice candidate will always fall out. I keep running to the finish line. If I have somebody who's amazing and they're interviewing, I'm still talking to people and I'm still setting up phone interviews with the hiring manager. Do not get caught with only one candidate because it will backfire, I promise. We're born salespeople. We can close the deal. Again, it's about understanding those motivators. It's about getting that yes and not having any surprises come up. Really don't wait to make the offer at the very end. Like you should be thinking about that offer all the way through the process so that no surprises come up later. I always get a verbal yes before I'll send out a written offer. This prevents people from shopping my offer around so people can beat it. It helps on the counteroffer situation. But I always say, okay, what's it going to take? Here's the rate. Great. Okay. All right, I got this offer and this is approved. I need to know that this is absolutely a yes for you before I'll send it out in writing. Oh, I need to think about it overnight. Can you send it to me? And I'll think, no, think about it overnight. Once we're ready to say yes, then I'll send it over to you. That way I don't have to go back and get it reapproved and get things retyped up and signed by the VP and all this nonsense. Get that verbal yes before you send the written. I haven't had declined offers in a very long time by going this route. I keep my new hires warm until their start date. I call them once they accept, I call them in between, and I call them on their first day, and I kind of make sure they're sitting pretty. I give all my candidates a nice little succulent to put on their desk on their first day. It's waiting for them, some goodies, whatever it is. Do whatever you can to keep them warm because those 2 to 3 weeks are precarious times and they might still have other companies interested in who interviewed them or they might be getting counters. If you go radio silent, you're rolling the dice. And last but not least, and we'll open it up to Q&A, we tag our silver medalists, we tag people that are truly great, we tag people that we might be able to work with in the future, and we always keep pipelining again, even when that rec closes. So I'm a big, big believer in tagging, pipelining, being proactive, never letting a good person just get lost in the general database, and love your job. If you love your job, if you're good at your job, if you're passionate, that will show, and it will absolutely make you a better recruiter. The best recruiters I know are passionate. They're not going through the motions. They're not dreading getting to work in the morning. If you don't love your job right now, and that might very well be the case. I've had times when I did not love my job, but I went to my boss, or I took some training, or I said, hey, I need to take a break from this team. I can't do it another day. I need to change the channel. Work with me here. I'm getting burned out. Have a conversation with your boss. Maybe it's time to change companies. Maybe the place that you're recruiting for, you don't love it there. You don't believe in the company anymore, and that's why it's becoming hard to sell it to candidates or attract people there. Or maybe recruiting is not for you. If it's all I'm saying is that, and I know that sounds horrible, but what I'm trying to say is do whatever you can to make sure that you love your job as much as possible and that you are feeling empowered and excited and passionate and educated and capable. If you feel those things, you're going to be truly great at your work. If you're not, do something to change it and proactively take action. Life is too short to go through life, with a job that you hate, right? So the best recruiters are passionate and they love their job, and it shows. So that's it. Here's the link. The RNL stands for Recruiter Nation Live. So bit.ly/RNL-Stacy. Here's the link again right here on this screen, along with all my contact info. Feel free to reach out to me. You can tweet me. You can email me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, of course. I would love to connect with you. Anyway, and that's the link to the goodie bag where all the goodies are inside. So take a peek at that. And I will double check that link at the end of this Q&A to make sure all the goodies are in there. So give me 5 or 10 minutes after the end of the call, and I'll make sure all the things I referenced today are in that folder for you, ready to go. So do we have any questions? We've got all of 5 minutes. Sorry, guys.
That's okay, Stacy. We can run a little over to get these addressed. That won't be an issue. Well, Juma, thank you for a great presentation. We've got numerous questions. So the first one has come in from Sharon Robinson, and she wants to know, what are your favorite extensions?
That will be in the link, and I could talk about them, but you'll have a link, you'll have a list in the goodie bag, and all the extensions that are my favorite will be listed there, along with a link that you can click on and get access to the extension yourself. So I won't go into that now, but I have a bunch of them that I love, probably about 6 or 8 that I couldn't live without. It'll be in the goodie bag, I promise.
Awesome. Ray, he wants to know what can be done to improve remote long-distance intake sessions.
Gosh, I've been working from home since 2003, so this is my life. Definitely phone is something that you can use, and it's what we've always used forever. But now there's Zoom, there's, all these different, I don't love Skype, but there's all these kind of Skype-esque tools, Google Hangout, what have you. I use Zoom, it's free, and I get to see the person, I can share my screen, we get that FaceTime. Yeah, anytime you happen to be in the same town, make sure that you're meeting up with each other. But I think having video calls is really effective, and if for whatever reason you both are on travel or visiting headquarters, always try to get that FaceTime, even for just a few minutes if you can. But in the day of video, I feel like that's a really great way to kind of remotely support your team and still build that rapport.
That is good to know. So Christine, she wants to know, what do you think of funky titles that include terms like ninja or rock star and things of that nature?
I'm not a giant fan of those. I'm not going to lie. No offense to any of the ninjas or rock stars or whatever out there. I'm not trying to offend. I think as a profession, sometimes people sort of roll their eyes because recruiters are sometimes viewed a little bit as cheesy, or the used car salesman of the business world or whatever. I don't know. I don't mean to be so blunt. But anything that we can do to kind of really look like the consummate professionals and the trusted business partners that we are is going to help us. And getting all cutesy and fancy and whatever with our titles, I don't think is personally helping our cause. That's my 2 cents, but I've definitely offended at least 1 or 2 people on the call just now, so I apologize to you. I like to call us what we are. Even if your title is talent acquisition evangelist, whatever. I always put /recruiter because, especially on LinkedIn, people are Googling the word recruiter if they want to talk to a recruiter at XYZ company. And if you were to call yourself, talent acquisition, wizard, like, they're not going to find you, and they're going to find somebody else. So I like to use words that are very SEO, simple, intuitive, straight to the point. People know what you are and what you do.
Oh, I agree. Clear and concise is a great way to be. So Christine was also wondering, do you ever feel making your job post too specific that candidates will go direct?
As a third party? I don't ever give away too much in my, and I don't post jobs per se. I do status updates. I don't post jobs. I don't have a careers page. I don't have a way for people to apply. I have a general link where people can, like, quote unquote, join the talent agency. They all go into my general database, and then I'm pipelining like crazy behind the scenes. But yeah, I think there's, pluses and minuses. I know a lot of people say, we work for the world's largest search firm, in Mountain View, and we all know who they're talking about, and that's fine. And then I know people that are very cryptic. I tend to err on the side of being cryptic. I've been an in-house recruiter 20 years. I've been on the search side now 6 months, so I'm still, tweaking a little bit. I tend to be a little bit more nebulous in my status updates, but when I'm doing outreach to candidates, I might mention who the client is, even if we haven't spoken yet. I'm still kind of figuring out the right line in the sand there. But your mileage may vary. Do what works for you and find what works and go with that. It's a risk we take,
Yes, that is for sure. So Keith had a question. What things do we need to get known as the type of contract corporate recruiter that recruiting managers beg to come work for them? Like, where do recruiter managers hang out besides big, expensive conference rooms?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. I know I don't have a fancy answer for this, but I think people who are hiring recruiters are looking on LinkedIn because that's where recruiters are. Pretty much 99.99% of recruiters have a LinkedIn profile. I would imagine. I would imagine it's well over 99% anyway. There are definitely a lot of really great Facebook groups where professional networking happens. There are some that are very niche. There are employment branding groups. There are sourcing groups. There are sourcers who code groups. There are recruitment marketing. There are talent technology groups. There are so many groups on Facebook that are absolutely my #1 go-to place when it comes to networking. I don't use LinkedIn groups. I haven't since about 2009-ish, maybe 2010. Facebook groups are my new LinkedIn groups, and much, much better than any kind of networking I ever even did on LinkedIn groups, if I'm being perfectly candid. I love LinkedIn. It's a fabulous place to network, but when it comes to groups and where do tech leaders, or recruiting leaders rather, TA leaders hang out, I find a lot of value in these groups. Again, in the goodie bag, there's a list of my 5 or 10 favorite Facebook groups. But there are many more. You can just go in and search, and you'll find a bunch of really great ones. And hop in, check them out. If they're not for you, hop out, find another one. But you'll get a good starting point from my list.
Oh yes, and I'm getting lots of questions about specific items like.
If it's a one-off, maybe ping me separately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I'm pretty sure they're in your goodie bag, but there are things of like what's the calendar link tool.
That'll be in the goodie bag. Yep. Yep. Sorry?
What chatbots do you recommend?
I don't use chatbots. I know I sound so behind the times, like it's all about AI and machine learning and chatbots and stuff. I don't really use those yet. My business model is a little bit different, so I know that there are a bunch of them out there. I don't personally use them yet, simply because there's not a use case in my business at this moment. But maybe go out to one of these Facebook groups, go out on the SourceCon group and ask, and I bet you'll get a lot of good responses of what people are using and how they're using them. There's a lot of smart people in there from really great companies. The Talent Agency, we have a group on Facebook. Check it out.
So
shameless plug.
Yeah, hey, no problem. A little bit ago when you were talking about LinkedIn, you mentioned that you send emails, not in-mails, and Susan was wondering about that.
Yes, I find people on LinkedIn and I email them through those email patterns I described in that spreadsheet with the 1,500 email patterns. So I find them on LinkedIn and I reach out any other way. I'm not a big fan of sending in-mail. I may have said the wrong word when I say email or what have you, but I don't typically send in-mails very often. In my new line of work, there's an exception to that because now that I'm recruiting recruiters, in-mails are much more effective than they were, for instance, when I was recruiting techies, because recruiters are in there all day, techies are not. We're all in LinkedIn. So that's my specific use case is a little bit different and very niche right now. But yeah, in general, I find people on LinkedIn, and then I figure out their email address, or I tweet them, or call them, or email them. I don't just send in-mail after in-mail after in-mail. I'm not a big fan of that, personally. response rates are not very good through InMail, and my response rates are much, much higher using other methods.
Well, that is good to know. I know I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn. So one last question from Tony. And she wants to know, what do you think about posting salaries on LinkedIn posts?
I never post salary. I know some people, advocate it. I think posting a salary is short-sighted. For instance, I had a company that had a budgeted range of like 85K for a recruiter in San Diego, and I was like, I don't think you're going to find a very good one. They're like, well, go out, find us the best people you can. We're going to evaluate, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they both ended up getting hired at a well over 6 figures. Well, they both got hired at a much higher rate. So just because what's budgeted doesn't mean what you're ultimately going to pay. And maybe you find someone, the salary range is listed out there, and you find someone who's a little bit more junior, but they're super high potential. You might end up hiring a little bit one level lower than what you initially anticipated, but now all of a sudden you created the expectation that they're going to make 100 when really you're only going to pay 85. So I would never lock myself into a salary range until I know the person that's going to be filling it. Look at market data, look at salary expectations, look at comps, look at 100 different factors and say, okay, this is what this person is worth in the marketplace. Why would I commit to a salary range before I even know the person? How can I commit to that? I feel like you're limiting yourself and locking yourself in when there's a world of possibility out there of things that could happen. So many variables. So again, I'm sure some people on this call disagree, and I respectfully, that everyone do your own thing, but I personally would never put a salary range out there on a posting personally. I've seen it way too many times end up outside of that range on either end, so, of what we started with. Because you find a great person, they're a great person. Not everything is cookie cutter.
All right. Well, thank you, Stacy, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, Level Up, 10 Great Things That Recruiters Do.
There are 100.
An email going out within the next 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. We'll also include the link to Stacy's grab bag. So on behalf of Jobvite and Recruiter.com and Stacy, thank you for joining us today, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Bye.